How about that? Are we good?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. We're so happy you're here. Welcome to the supply side stage. We have a really great session for you today. It is called Pet Supplementation Unleashed, fetching the latest insights for optimal pet health and well-being. I feel like you really just can't go wrong when you're talking about pets. Today we have our lineup of speakers, Jim Hipsch, the Account Strategy Director from Marketplace. We have Michael Bentley, the President of Sierra Sil, and Bill Bookout, President of National Animal Supplement Council. So please give them a warm welcome.
Hello everybody. It is great to see you during lunch, so thank you very much for that. I'm super honored to be here today with Michael and Bill, two of the very best in the pet supplement industry, and very excited to talk to you all about our favorite thing, pet supplements. So my name is Jim. I work for Marketplace. We are a brand and business strategy firm that is focused on the human and pet supplement, food, and beverage categories. And I'll be leading the discussion today, but I'll let you both introduce yourselves real quick.
My name is Michael Bentley. I'm a husband and dad, and I get to play with a business however many hours a week that is. And our passion is to help people with mild, and their pets with mild to chronic aches and soreness recover joy and ability.
Bill Bookout, I'm president and one of the founding members of the National Animal Supplement Council. NASC is a trade association like NPA or Daniel Fabricant before on the stage. We represent companies that sell products that are similar to human dietary supplements that are marketed for non-human food chain animals. That means dogs, cats, and horses. Animal lover my whole life. A little quick story about my picture with our cat Marmalade. We had dogs our whole life. We did a key to rescue, lost all of our dogs. We weren't going to get any more pets. This cat was living in a culvert under the driveway. I can't stand to see a hungry animal, so I buy a cheap bag of cat food, and the next thing you know, he's in the house sleeping on the bed. So we have two cats, Marmalade and Yanaha, and we've been around 22 years, NASC, and we're the leading trade association in the world representing companies for supplements for animals.
But Bill, was it an NASC certified cat food?
Well, we don't do complete balanced diets. So, no, and it was a feral cat, so it was a cheap bag of cat food, but I didn't know he was going to stick around.
You got to do what you got to do. Well, thank you all so much for joining, and thank you for the introductions. My agency, Marketplace, we do research on the U.S. pet audience each year to find what's motivating purchases, what they're buying, why they're buying, where they're buying, all of that. So one of the things that really stood out to me this year from our research is just the amount that people are spending on pets. If anyone, I'm a new pet parent myself. I got a puppy right after Natural Products Expo last year, and I can definitely attest to that for myself. But just that spending and all of that is very interesting. People said that they would, not eliminate spending on things like travel, food, healthcare, etc., over eliminating spending on their pets. So obviously this is a huge category and something very exciting. So maybe just before we start going into questions for this audience, or for you two, I would love to ask some questions of the audience. So we'll start with an easy one. Who's having a great time at Supply Side West? Raise your hand. Okay, yeah. Okay, keep your hand raised if you are currently missing a pet at home. If you are a pet parent, a pet aunt, a pet uncle, grandma, grandpa, etc. Okay, keep your hand raised if you would do anything to keep your pet happy and healthy, living happy, freely, fully, as long as possible. All right, last but not least, keep your hands up if you are representing a company that currently sells into the pet supplement market. All right, awesome. I did see some hands go down, so that's really why we're here today, to talk about that opportunity and what you can really gain for being part of the pet market. So our goal here is to help you navigate the space, to teach you a little bit more about regulatory trends, the audiences, and clinical research in this category. Which leads me to my first question for Michael. One of the things that we know very well in our category, or in our research, is joint health and just how much that is driving purchases of pet supplements. So could you tell us a little bit about Sierra Sil's journey and how you determined your focus on joint health?
So I actually didn't come from our industry. About 20 years ago, I came from outside the industry and really wanted to make sure that we were one, had a safe product, and two, an efficacious product. And the way to do that is through research. So we undertook a level of research that former director of the NPA described as a gold standard for the industry, and I'm really proud of that. So, and most of our research has been on people as well as simulated research, lab research and so forth. So it's important.
Excellent. So when we talk about things like joint health, skin health, digestive health, those type of things, we see that everywhere at this show. We see so many brands focusing on those categories. We see that reflected in the pet market, the human market, just as much. So Bill, would love to hear a little bit about the approach for pet supplements. For as much synergy as there is between human and pet supplements, what is different about formulation for pet supplements?
Good question, and I'll touch on a couple points that are key, I think. The majority of the ingredients that are used in pet supplements, at least high-quality pet supplements, are the exact same ingredients that you see from suppliers in human dietary supplements. The only difference are palatants. If you can't readily get the animal to accept the product, the pet owner's just not going to fight with, no matter how good your product is, they're just not going to fight to have them consume it. So palatability is important. That's a really important difference, but the majority of the ingredients are exactly the same as those used in human dietary supplements. What's a big difference, and we'll talk about this more as we go, I'm sure, is the regulatory environment is different. So here's your first big takeaway. DSHEA does not apply to animals. So the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act, which is the legislation that created a category for human dietary supplements as a subset of food that we all hear about, and Bob Durkin and Dan talked about in the presentations before this, doesn't apply to animals. So we're regulated differently on the animal side than dietary supplements are on the human side. No category for dietary supplements for animals under DSHEA.
Awesome. Well, you talked a little bit about palatability. We all know we're in the food industry, the nutrition industry, how important taste is for humans, pets as well. I think that goes with format as well, what format is most popular in this industry. And what we have uncovered through our research was that soft chews are really that palatable option that dogs in particular seem to really love. A lot of times we say it's kind of like the gummy of the pet supplement category. So Michael, you have a soft chew product. What was a little bit of the decision behind why to do that?
Well, our first product for the pet sector was actually more like a tablet. It was not a success. It was a little too chalky. Pets, like we were trying to bridge cat and dog, and it didn't work. And so we then went to the soft chew format, and that's been much more effective. And it's been really important for us also to connect with ingredients that are quality ingredients, natural ingredients, primarily North American sourced, for example, was important to us. And then working with contract manufacturers there are some contract manufacturers that are really great if you've got huge MOQs. And then there's others where, if you're not there, that's something to be aware of. So,
yeah, to underpin that, the standard delivery system, I think, in the animal industry is a soft chew delivery format. It's like a treat. They accept it like a treat. So if you're familiar with HeartGuard, a heartworm preventative, right, a similar format. So that's a palatable delivery system. I would underpin what Michael said about ingredients and processing. You want to be careful because ingredients can be subject to thermal degradation. So if the processes are heat processes, and that's a big difference on soft chews that are produced for supplements, is a cold extruded process, so you don't get thermal degradation of ingredients and you meet label claim. The real objective is you want the animal to respond positively to your product, right? Because this is a repeat sale. It's not a one-time shot. So I think as a company, as a retailer, the objectives that they want to accomplish are you want the animal to respond positively to the product. You want that customer to come back, buy it again. The retailer wants to leverage the visit, buy other stuff, increase trust and confidence in whomever recommended that product, and tell your friends so you can create a new stream of customers. Those I really think are the objectives, and there's a lot of components to that. Mainly is no substitute for trust and confidence in your supply chain. Got to start with quality raw materials combined by quality repeatable processes if you want a quality product that's going to maximize those outcomes and result in economic success and growth of the business.
So we're talking a lot about ingredients, and obviously at this show, everywhere you
Just to add to another format that I think is starting to gain in some popularity too are the sachets to sprinkle your, we'll call them medicinal pet ingredients on top of their food as well. So it's also something to consider. And with your point about the extrusion process, some of the soft chews are done by a baking process, some by the extrusion process, and to be aware of that. And sometimes with some of them, the lot sizes can vary. Like you could specify, I want 5,000 units or 10,000 units, and the production size may vary. It's just to follow up and check the batch records to make sure that when you're in that kind of a component that you've got the right amount of your targeted active ingredients in the product.
I'll give you another, another landmine you can step on, a point that you mentioned. Sachet products, powdered products, those are certainly popular. Here's a one-word mistake that you can make that completely changes how your product is regulated. If you say add it to food, sprinkle over the top of food, you call it a treat, a single word or that can completely change how that product is regulated on the animal side. So you want to be very careful and ensure that you understand what the right pathways are on the pet space, because it's not the same as the human side.
That's actually a great point, and that leads me to another question. At this show, we talk a lot about functional foods and beverages and things. Those industries coming together, supplements, foods. Though that's different in the pet market, so there's not functional treats and things like that.
Exactly.
Could you talk a little bit about that and what that looks like?
So I can quote the law because I live it every day, right? Under 201G1B is diagnose, prevent, treat, or cure. Everybody knows you got to stay out of that category. You can't have products that diagnose, prevent, treat, or cure. You see the disclaimer statements required by DSHEA on human products, not evaluated by the FDA, not intended to diagnose, prevent, treat, or cure. 201G1C says, and that's a subset of the drug code, products other than food. You can read that as other than nutrition intended to affect the structure and or function of the body or man or other animals. The operative takeaway there is other than food, meaning other than nutrition. So you got two pathways. You have a G1C pathway, a functional product with ingredients that are beneficial for a health benefit, non-nutritionally, or you have a nutritional product, a treat, a nutritional product that would add nutrients as components of a complete and balanced diet, essential fatty acid, vitamins, and minerals. But if you market a treat, that term, you call a product a treat, be regulated as a food. Biscuit, treat, snack, cookie, peanut butter. Those are defined terms in the animal side as food. So I said you can make a one-word mistake, call a product a treat, boom, you're regulated as a food, and that completely changes or may redefine the pathway that you thought you wanted to follow. So functional treats, I would advise strong caution. If anybody has a question, I appreciate everybody attending the pet segment here. If anybody has a question, NASC member or not, I'm glad to talk to you. It doesn't do the industry any good for a company to make a mistake.
There's a parallel in Canada as well. I'm not sure if it applies here, and that is, for example, if you're on the food side of the equation, your product is measured by weight, and if you're on the veterinarian side as a nutrient, it's measured by serving sizes that are in the package as well. So subtle difference, but to be aware of.
Yeah, no, definitely. So let's switch gears a little bit and talk about clinicals in this category. So we work with a lot of brands in the human and pet ingredient categories, and we just always talk about how important clinical studies are, showing that your product works, feeling the benefits, those type of things. You see it all the time when you walk through this show as well. So Michael, would love to hear a little bit about your journey with clinicals and how that's impacted your product.
So last year, I was on a panel at the Canadian Health Food Association, on a regulatory meeting about research and how has research helped us in the marketplace. And I said, I'm not sure it has helped us that much because it's such a crowded marketplace. But it does help me sleep better at night knowing that we can stand behind our product. And is Yadam Medor here of Pure Branding? He may be at the show, but he's being quoted as saying one of the top mistakes brands like ours can do is lead with the research. He says that that's just a requirement. It's like an entryway. And one of the things that, having been in the industry now for a couple of decades, that I appreciate is how many more ingredients and companies are focusing on the research and doing the research and supporting their products with research. And he says, ultimately, the consumers make a connection on an emotional basis, and that's where they do. But if there's time, I'm really happy to comment on what I believe makes good research.
Good. That was my next question.
So there's a lot of different levels of good research. And if I could do a parallel to, for example, financial statements, if there's people who are on the business side of the equation, and do a comparison on that. So if you're reading like a financial statement, like the Enron scandal a few years ago, shouldn't have been a scandal if people looked at the suite of financials that were available and not just on one part of it. And so if you could look at your balance sheet as kind of like your ingredient profile, the data on your ingredient and so forth, that's nice to have. And then your RCTs, randomized controlled trials, are kind of like an income statement, but then you need to be able to bridge the two together. And in financial terms, you call that the changes in financial position. And in our research terms, I would call that your mechanism of action research. It's really important so you can connect, like explain why you got a certain result in an RCT with that material with the mechanism of action research. It's kind of like a bridge between the two. But then there's something else. There's the notes to the financial statements, for example, if you're looking at those, where the depreciation policy changes, what other changes took place that underlined the data that was presented. And in research, I think there's lots of things to look for. Was the paper written independently from the manufacturer? What was the original N size, the target number of subjects in the study, whether it was pets or people, versus the N size? In a larger study, there should be a difference. There should be some dropouts, but is that explained? Is the initial N and the final N even discussed? If it's not, I would be a little suspicious. What were the inclusion criteria and exclusion criteria? I'm aware of a drug company that's trying to use data from our Oura ring to try and exclude people who would be more predisposed to placebo, which is kind of a scary thing. So that's where the integrity of the write-up is really, really important, and to look at some of that information on that. Exclusion criteria, exclusion criteria, starting N, ending N, and where were the dropouts? Were they more in the treatment or in the placebo? Where were the poor tolerances and those kinds of things? And you need to read the study to get to that, not just the abstract.
And that has so many parallels with the regulatory side of this.
It does, and just a couple additional comments on research. I applaud all companies that do research on your products. Primarily, again, it's a consumable product. You want to facilitate a positive response in the animal, which facilitates a repeat sale that hopefully translates into economic and business success. So you can make a difference in the lives of millions of animals with your product, right? So you want to make sure it's going to work. You want to be careful and cognizant of how do you use that research. So I'm going to do a disclaimer. I'm not an attorney, but I deal with this quite often, so I would suggest consult competent legal counsel. But research, you can use research, but you've got to be careful that you don't get crossways with FDA on the diagnose, prevent, treat, or cure. If you have research that your product helps dogs with osteoarthritis, that's okay, but you don't want to connect that to economic activity. You want to look at a blog site or something else that disconnects that. You don't want to have any hot links to your product, backwards, forwards. You want to disconnect that from any commercial activity on your product. The other thing is there are really 3 levels of risk. There's FDA risk in a warning letter, which nobody wants to have. The FTC, Federal Trade Commission, is concerned about truthful, not false and misleading claims to the consumer. And research helps substantiate the claims that you do make under structure, function, or other claims that you make. But also, maybe even a bigger risk in the animal segment is action by plaintiff's attorneys, where the claims that you have, you can have a plaintiff's attorney that's going to send you a letter that said, we see you're making these claims for these products and you got to substantiate those claims or we're going to take action with a class action lawsuit. And that happens more frequently than it probably should. Like it or not, we live in a litigious society in the United States, so you have to be very conscientious of that. But again, I would say consult legal counsel. There's really good counsel here. Venable, we use Venable. Rivkin is here. Amin Pilati is here. So there's a lot of good law firms, and they'll talk to you on consults and won't charge you. So that's, I guess, I would underpin the research thing.
Jim, there's one other thing I would add too, is sometimes a clinical study will have different serving or dosage sizes in it, and I've seen products market referencing a clinical study, but at a dosage size that wasn't effective in the study, ignoring the dosage size that was effective. And I just think that's unethical personally, but that's something to watch for, is when you're looking at an ingredient or looking at a finished product, is the recommended serving size consistent with the level that was efficacious in the study? Not just consistent with a level in the study, but the efficacious level in the study is just something to keep.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you both very much. So we're getting near the end, and we'll have a couple minutes for questions if anybody in the audience has any questions. But before we get there, what you all were saying was just making me think of branded ingredients a lot and that piece of it. How do people in the pet category respond to branded ingredients in the product, in a supplement?
I didn't quite hear you, Jim. Sorry.
Sorry, a branded ingredient.
Do people respond? Do they want a particular branded ingredient?
Do people seek those out in your?
This is entirely anecdotal, but my sense is that there's a higher degree, generally speaking, of product loyalty within the animal sector than there is in the human sector. There are some brands that are exceptions, where people, once they try it, they stick with it. But it's my sense in the animal side, once something's working for a pet, they just stick with it.
Yeah, and I think branded ingredients, innovation is extremely important, either on the human side or the animal side. So branded ingredients are typically, something specific to a company that is either protected or there's intellectual property attached to, or research potentially attached to, that would hopefully differentiate them in the marketplace. And on the pet side, there certainly are people that look for branded ingredients. And you can use and reference branded ingredients from companies like that, but you got to be careful how you do it, depending on whether it's a nutritional supplement or a health supplement for a non-nutritional benefit. Those are your two categories, right? Your products will either fall in one of those two, and referencing branded ingredients. Good thing, research is great. A lot of innovation in branded ingredients and differentiation in branded ingredients. And so, it's a lot.
All right, well, we have about 5 minutes left. So before we wrap up, would love to hear from each of you. If there was a company that was a B2B company or a CPG company that's selling to humans now, and they're looking to get into the pet category, what's the one thing that you would tell them? Or two.
Do it for the right reasons. Be authentic. Don't make a product just because you think it's a financial opportunity. Do it because you have a differentiated product that will truly make a difference for your clients.
Here, I wholeheartedly agree. I'm the regulatory guy, so I'll give you the regulatory takeaways and things that people don't know or I would leave you with. DSHEA doesn't apply to animals. Okay, don't make the mistake and think that it does. So Dietary Supplement Health Education Act doesn't apply to animals. Like it or not, right or wrong, agree or disagree, that's the opinion of FDA. And that was published in the Federal Register. Number two, the pet supplement industry is not an unregulated industry. We're actually regulated more strictly or rigorously than the human side. Why? Because we have FDA Center for Veterinary Medicine to deal with at the federal level, and also potentially 50 different states with 50 different sets of state statutes and 50 different interpretations. So those two things I think are valuable takeaways. And if you don't, talk to me. I'm happy to speak to you, but you can literally make a mistake that you don't even realize. And why do I know that? Because I've made every one of them in the past when we had our company, when I first got into this business in 1999. So every mistake anybody's made, I've made it.
Can I just add something
Yeah,
to this?
please.
And Bill there's no inside ball on this, but being a member of NASC will make you a better company because their audit processes are fantastic. They're extensive, they're detailed, and they will actually, like, from my perspective, like it's like complying with the rules in Health Canada and so forth. They're really good, and yeah, pay attention and have your quality people they should be the final decision maker. But NASC is a terrific organization, and yeah.
Thank you, Michael. I really appreciate it. Our job is, I tell people, our job is to keep you out of trouble, not get you out of trouble, right? Our mission is we want to allow our member companies to focus on top line growth, bottom line profitability without the threat of regulatory disruption to your business. If we help make that happen, we've done our job.
Awesome. Well, thank you on behalf of all the pets out there. And so at this time, we have about 3 minutes left if anyone has any questions for Michael or Bill.
Hi, thank you so much for the presentation. I'm curious, can you comment on the use of algae-based products in the pet industry? And I know it's kind of a new emerging field, and is that part of AFCO? Is that part of
Right.
pets treats right now?
Yeah, so
Probably best to comment on the trends.
AFCO is, they're a nonprofit. A lot of people think AFCO is a regulatory agency. They're not. That's the Association of American Feed Control Officials. They publish an official publication that lists ingredients that are approved or allowed for use in pet food. And you can consult that. I recommend the AFCO official publication. I use the online version because it's keyword searchable. However, here's another caution. Turmeric is approved, and you asked me an algae question. Algae's in there, so look it up to see the specific species of algae that are okay in pet food. If you have an algae that's not approved, like spirulina, that's an unapproved ingredient for use in pet food, and it won't be listed in that AFCO manual. It's a good reference document if you're selling food products. You can use spirulina in a product for a health benefit, provided your benefit is non-nutritional, and that's where NASC comes in.
From a branding standpoint on that too, it's, we as consumers look for specific ingredients in foods, beverages, supplements that we take. It's very much the same for pet parents too. They're looking for certain ingredients that they've read great things about, they've seen great studies, etc. So when you have a unique ingredient, it's something you want to put on their promotional materials, their packaging, etc. For these products.
Hi, thank you for the interesting chat. So in human supplements, there can be some aversion to certain types of ingredients. Maybe starches or lactose or things like that. Are there ingredients in pet supplements that you like to stay away from a consumer perspective? I mean, I know the consumer is the pet, but it's really the parent. So, like, is there any aversion to corn or starch or certain ingredients?
Well, again, in pet food, I think you want to consult the AFCO manual. Some ingredients are limited by quantity or specific uses. There was a big thing a few years ago about legumes and dilated cardiomyopathy in food. So, that was kind of a big hoopla, and then it kind of died away. Now the current thing is copper. So AFCO is a good reference for that with different ingredients. Does that answer your question?
Any more questions? All right, well, Can
I just give a shout out? I just want to say thank you to Informa Markets for a really great trade show and conference, to all of your team, and to the technical people here too. I'm really enjoying the conference, and hope everybody else as well. So.
And thanks so much for attending. I echo the comments. Thanks so much for attending the
Thank
seminar.
you very much. Enjoy the rest of your show.